Hi and welcome. You're listening to the LM Report. My name is Lima, and this is episode 7, recorded on April 8th, 2025. Today's episode, titled Departies. The Party of Violence, Rogue Judges Never Had Power, Winning Next Phase, dives deep into the latest economic, political, and geopolitical developments shaping our world. We'll explore the shifting balance of power in the U.S., the implications of recent Supreme Court rulings, immigration enforcement, economic challenges, cultural controversies, and global security trends. Buckle up, this is a comprehensive look at where we stand and what's coming next. Judicial power and constitutional clarity. Let's start with a seismic shift in the U.S. legal landscape. On April 7, 2025, the Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling that reaffirmed the constitutional authority of the executive branch, particularly in matters of national security and immigration. This decision stemmed from a series of legal challenges where lower court judges, often labeled rogue by critics, attempted to block President Trump's deportation policies. These judges, operating in districts like Washington, D.C. and New York, issued injunctions that stalled efforts to remove illegal immigrants, citing humanitarian concerns or procedural issues. The Supreme Court, in a 6-2 vote, vacated these orders, ruling that such judges lacked jurisdiction to interfere in executive functions outside their districts. Legal scholars point to Article 2 of the Constitution, which grants the president broad authority over immigration enforcement as part of national security. The majority opinion, penned by Justice Clarence Thomas, emphasized that the judiciary's role is to interpret laws, not to dictate executive policy, a principle rooted in the separation of powers. This ruling has far-reaching implications. For Trump's administration, it clears a path to implement its immigration agenda without constant judicial roadblocks. Over the past 2 years, legal battles had delayed deportations, with opponents arguing that these policies disrupted families and violated due process. Supporters, however, see this as a restoration of order, arguing that unchecked judicial activism had undermined elected leadership. The decision also serves as a civics lesson, reminding the public that the Constitution delineates distinct roles for each branch of government. But the fight isn't over. Some legal experts predict that opponents will shift their focus to Congress, pushing for new laws to limit executive power, or to sympathetic state courts where they might find a more favorable audience. For now, though, the administration celebrates a victory, with Trump posting on Truth Social, "The Supreme Court has upheld the rule of law, allowing a president to secure our borders and protect our families." A great day for justice in America. Whether this clarity endures will depend on how future challenges play out. Immigration enforcement, a multi-pronged approach. Building on this ruling, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, has accelerated its immigration strategy. On April 6, 2025, DHS revoked legal status for over 900,000 migrants who entered the U.S. via the CBP-1 app between 2023 and 2025. Introduced under President Biden, this app allowed migrants to schedule entry appointments at the border, a policy hailed by some as humane but criticized by others as a loophole for mass migration. Now, under Secretary Kristi Noem and Advisor Tom Homan, DHS is using the same app to notify these individuals to self-deport within 30 days. Failure to comply triggers enforcement of the 1996 Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, which imposes fines of up to $998 per day, potentially escalating to property seizures. During his first term, Trump invoked this law, but Biden rescinded its use in 2021. Its reinstatement signals a hardline stance, with DHS estimating that 60 to 70% of these migrants will self-deport to avoid penalties. Criminal elements, however, may resist, preferring to take their chances in the U.S. rather than face arrest in their home countries. Physical border security is also ramping up. On April 5, 2025, Noem issued the administration's first waiver to expedite border wall construction, targeting a 2.5-mile stretch near San Diego. This waiver bypasses environmental reviews, a move decried by activists but praised by border hawks. Plans are underway to extend this effort along the Texas and Arizona borders, with an estimated 50 miles of new barriers planned by year-end. The goal? to choke off illegal crossings, which DHS data shows peaked at 2.5 million in 2023 before declining under stricter enforcement. This strategy aims to dismantle what officials call a criminal ecosystem at the border, networks trafficking, drugs, women, and children. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports seizing 27,000 pounds of fentanyl in 2024 alone, much of it linked to cartels exploiting porous borders. By deporting migrants, fortifying walls, and targeting financial flows, the administration seeks to disrupt these operations. Critics argue this approach ignores asylum seekers' plights, but supporters counter that legal immigration channels remain open for those who qualify. Protests and the next political phase. As these policies take shape, another dynamic is emerging: public protests. Since Trump's inauguration in January 2025, sporadic demonstrations have erupted in cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. On April 7th, a group of activists briefly shut down Grand Central Station, halting trains and demanding an end to deportations. Social media footage showed counter-protesters on upper floors tossing garbage at the crowd below, an indication of growing public frustration. Analysts suggest these protests may intensify, potentially peaking in the summer. Unlike the organic unrest of 2020, some evidence points to coordination, flyers, online campaigns, and funding from obscure nonprofits hint at a planned escalation. Posts from users like L. Jacoby question who's bankrolling these efforts, with speculation ranging from political operatives to foreign actors. Without concrete proof, such claims remain theories, but they fuel a narrative of orchestrated opposition. If protests turn violent, the administration has options. Trump has hinted at deploying federal law enforcement, and some advisors advocate invoking the Insurrection Act, a 1807 law allowing military action against domestic insurrection. Historical uses like the 1992 Los Angeles riots show its potency, but also its controversy. Civil liberties groups warn of overreach, while supporters argue it's necessary to prevent chaos. Public opinion could swing either way depending on how events are framed. Riots could discredit organizers, or a heavy-handed response could galvanize opposition. This phase could redefine political alignments. The Democratic Party risks being labeled as chaotic if tied to unrest, a perception that hurt it in 2020 exit polls. Moderate Democrats may distance themselves, with figures like Senator Joe Manchin already criticizing protest tactics. Trump's team, meanwhile, aims to leverage this contrast, portraying stability as their hallmark. Whether the strategy unites or further polarizes the nation remains to be seen. Economic challenges, debt, labor, and currency. Economically, the stakes are high. The U.S. national debt hit $36.5 trillion in March 2025, growing by $2 trillion annually. Economists like Nouriel Roubini warn of a debt supercycle that could trigger a crisis within 5 years if unchecked. Trump and Elon Musk, through the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, propose slashing federal spending, potentially targeting entitlements like Social Security, though Trump denies such plans. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer counters that DOGE's reforms threaten benefits, a claim Musk dismisses as government fraud propaganda. Immigration ties into this. Lawmakers like Representatives Jasmine Crockett and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez argue that deporting undocumented workers who fill roles in agriculture, construction, and hospitality could disrupt supply chains. A 2024 USDA report estimated that 40% of farm labor is undocumented, raising fears of crop shortages. Yet others trace this reliance to the dollar's decline since 1971, when President Nixon ended the gold standard. As inflation eroded wages, businesses sought cheaper labor, first outsourcing manufacturing, then importing workers. Trump's solution involves tariffs and deportations to boost domestic employment, though critics warn of price hikes. A return to sound money, perhaps gold-backed currency, is floated by some advisors, echoing Ron Paul's long-standing calls. This could stabilize purchasing power, reducing the need for low-wage immigrants, but transitioning from the current fiat system would be a monumental task, likely facing resistance from Wall Street and global markets. Cultural flashpoints, Disney and Tesla. Culturally, tensions are brewing. Disney's legal battle with Gina Carano intensified on April 4th when a California court ordered the company to disclose paid data for The Mandalorian stars like Pedro Pascal and Rosario Dawson. Carano alleges she was fired in 2021 for conservative social media posts, while peers with progressive views faced no repercussions. The court gave Disney 20 days to comply, a deadline that could reveal pay gaps or ideological bias. Stockholders watch nervously. Disney's stock dipped 3% in 2024 amid woke backlash, and this case might amplify investor unrest. Meanwhile, Tesla faces literal fire. On April 6th, vandals torched 3 Tesla vehicles in Seattle, part of a wave targeting the company. Ex-user Doge designer notes that no other carmaker or billionaire like Jeff Bezos faces similar attacks, linking it to Elon Musk's criticism of government overreach. Tesla's market share holds at 49% of U.S. electric vehicle sales per Cox Automotive, but these incidents could dent its image. Theories abound. Some see a political vendetta, others eco-activists upset over lithium mining. No arrests have been made, but the selective targeting raises eyebrows. Health policy overhaul. Health policy is undergoing a radical shift under Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s influence at HHS. On April 3rd, he canceled a $1.2 million grant to develop vaccine promotion videos for Black and Latino communities, arguing that COVID-19 shots weaken immunity, a view at odds with CDC guidance but backed by some independent studies. He's also targeting fluoride, citing a national toxicology program report linking it to IQ declines in children. Europe's fluoride bans, he notes, haven't spiked cavities, challenging decades of U.S. policy. A bombshell Cleveland Clinic study, released April 7th, found the 2024 to 2025 flu vaccine increased flu risk by 27% among 53,000 employees, 82% of whom were vaccinated. This negative efficacy, statistically significant across age and job roles, bolsters RFK Jr.'s skepticism of Big Pharma. Alternatives like ivermectin and zinc gain traction among his allies, though mainstream medicine remains dismissive. These moves aim to empower personal health choices, but they risk alienating public health orthodoxy, setting up a clash between science and reform. Global security and domestic rights. Globally, Trump is navigating tensions with Iran. On April 6th, he initiated direct talks, warning Tehran that failed negotiations over its nuclear program could lead to great danger. This echoes his 2018 exit from the Iran deal, but with higher stakes. U.S. intelligence estimates Iran is 18 months from a viable weapon. Simultaneously, a $1 trillion defense budget proposal announced April 5th aims to rebuild a military weakened by years of budget cuts and aging equipment. Defense analyst Pete Hegseth calls it a return to lethality, with funds earmarked for drones, ships, and cyber defenses. At home, rights debates intensify. The Supreme Court on April 7th upheld New York's 2022 gun law, rejecting challenges to concealed carry limits in sensitive places like parks and churches. Gun Owners Foundation vows to appeal, arguing it violates the 2022 Bruin decision affirming carry rights. In contrast, free speech faces threats abroad. Germany jailed a journalist for 7 months on probation over a satirical meme, a chilling reminder of why the U.S. Constitution matters. Crime and accountability. Crime remains a flashpoint. Florida authorities seized over 1 million child pornography videos on April 2nd, with suspects linked to TikTok sales, a scandal prompting calls for platform bans. Attorney General Pam Bondi vowed to pursue traffickers nationwide, tying it to border security lapses. Domestically, the Supreme Court's April 7th ruling also greenlit Trump's plan to fire 16,000 federal workers across the Pentagon, Treasury, and other agencies, streamlining bureaucracy but sparking union protests. Uniting a fractured nation. Amid this upheaval, Trump's team aims to unify Americans by exposing shared threats, be it rogue judges, criminal networks, or foreign foes. The ousting of Vice Admiral Shoshana Chatfield from NATO's military committee on April 6th after she refused Trump's portrait underscores a purge of dissent. Task forces led by Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel are vetting officials for loyalty to constitutional principles, a move framed as patriotic but criticized as partisan. As protests loom, the administration may let them play out to reveal organizers, potentially tying them to unelected influencers or past leaders like Obama, though evidence remains circumstantial. By pointing to a common enemy, Trump seeks to bridge divides, a gamble that could either heal or deepen America's fractures. We're at a crossroads. Judicial clarity, immigration crackdowns, economic reckoning, and global posturing define this moment. The LM report will keep dissecting these trends, offering you the tools to understand what's next. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Be well, be safe, and stay engaged. If this episode resonated, please subscribe to the LM report. We're building a community to explore these issues together. This is Lima signing off until next time.